Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Inside Edge podcast. It is November 2025. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Coach Clark. How are we doing, Coach?
I'm doing awesome this morning. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic, doing fantastic. Mom's already back in bed with the baby boy after a morning bottle, so things are calm in the household for a little bit. Figured we'd
All is
talk some
good.
hockey.
All is good. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. A lot to talk about.
What I wanted to start with, we had the 2025 Hall of Fame inductees over the weekend. Jack Parker, Zdeno Chara, Duncan Keith, and Jumbo Joe Thornton led the 2025 Hall of Fame class in Scotiabank on Friday night in Toronto. They were honored. Chara talked a lot about his time as a Boston Bruin and specifically about Patrice Bergeron and just what the game of hockey meant to him as a kid. And there was just one part that I wanted to highlight, Coach, before I let you talk about all those guys if you want. But there's a lot of kids, and we've talked a lot about the time that it takes to become a pro or even just a good hockey player. And kids think a lot about, like, does my gear fit right? Am I getting the lessons that I should be getting? This is a quote from Zdeno Chara over the weekend. Growing up in a small town in Slovakia, you don't dream about nights like this. You dream about a patch of ice that doesn't melt before we finish practice. You dream about finding a stick that's not broken or skates that can still fit for a couple of years. These guys that get to that level, they'll play the game no matter what. They'll play with a broken stick that's a little tweaked, or they'll play on skates that don't necessarily fit the best. It's not about all that stuff. But yeah, just wanted to read that real quick.
I have a theory. I'm not a big fan, like in the last couple of decades, maybe 2 or 3 decades, we've seen it's like a war between, take college, for instance. Colleges have to build new arenas, and the locker rooms are like world-class locker rooms, crazy. I don't know if you've ever been in the University of North Dakota's locker room, and it's insane. It's like so over the top. And then you go to Russia, and you see these guys going in locker rooms with hooks on the wall, right? And I just think players are, for the most part, absolutely spoiled and pampered, and they don't appreciate. I really don't see how they could appreciate the ladder you got to climb. I mean, I remember in the 80s, Russian players who would, I mean, they would wear, I swear to God, Dixie cups for shoulder pads and just brutal equipment. And like you said, sticks that were just horrible. And they made it go. They were unbelievably talented. Of course, they trained 24/7. That was the rule in Russia back then. But the equipment was nothing. And now you're dealing with $300, $400 sticks, and it's become a rich man's sport. The facilities that they play in, I mean, okay, I get it. You want to train in nice facilities. You know, there's a line, and I just think it's pampering that's gone on. It's just way over the top. That's just an old guy's opinion. But
No,
I look around. I wish young guys really would just make it, the people organizing this, just make it a little bit tougher on these kids and not spoil them, not give them everything on a silver platter.
No, I totally agree, Coach. I I was just thinking about as you were talking, and yes, I have seen North Dakota. I watched, I believe Chicklets did a walkthrough tour of their facility. It's insane. It's better than some professional facilities, and that's from a kid who grew up in professional locker rooms in Major League Baseball, which is a higher financial tier sport per franchise. It's insane.
Big time.
But
Yeah.
to go off that point, I watching Connor Bedard recently, and we were talking before the show about this young wave that's really taken over the NHL recently. I saw a video of him out in Chicago having a good old time, like the guys used to. And as my dad would say, he came back playing guilty the next night. I think he had a 4-point night. He was in on all 4 of the Blackhawks goals, and they won in overtime or something. There's something to that, where you can't be that way all the time, but there is a balance to this is hockey at the end of the day. These guys don't need vibrating massage chairs when they sit down at that locker room. It's the most important piece of the facility is the ice.
Yeah. And I think, guys like Bedard, he seems to be a kid who enjoys life and pretty down to earth. I've never met him. I don't know him, but he comes off as a pretty genuine kid and who kind of enjoys it. I mean, The thing that worried me a little bit about Bedard was the NHL. I remember being at the NHL awards ceremony in Vegas a couple of years ago, and he had not, I don't think he had been drafted. He was about to be drafted number one overall, but they had him on stage, giving an award to someone, not one of the top awards, but just making a presentation, but hadn't played one NHL game yet. And I was kind of worried that it was going to, the expectations were just crazy, but the kid is very grounded and he can handle it, and he's done a really, really good job. So my worries were pushed aside after, a couple of years in the league, and he's done pretty well. And his supporting cast in Chicago has gotten better and better, and now they're like pretty good team. They're pretty tough. Got a good goalie, Spencer Knight. I think it was a brilliant move. They got Spencer Knight signed, and he's playing well, and kind of a rebound deal for Spencer after struggling, some mental challenges over the last few years. And again, here's a kid who came in the league way too early, I thought, and at least too much too soon for a young kid, especially a goalie. But he's figuring it out. So they've got a nice team in Chicago, and I think they're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, Spencer Knight, one of those guys who, I mean, to the opposite side of the coin, like Bedard, you were saying you were kind of worried about. He definitely got a lot on his shoulders early in the league in Florida, and just being so highly touted first round pick as a goalie, it's kind of unusual.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that the other guys on the list, Jack Parker, who was the Boston University
Yeah.
hockey coach for over 40 years, wanted to mention him as well.
Yeah.
Three-time national champion.
I got to know him a little bit. I was a very young assistant at the University of Maine in the mid to late '80s. Jack was Maine hadn't really was about to, but hadn't gotten to that elite level yet. And BU was a big rival, and Jack was probably in so right in his prime in terms of coaching age, and there was a bitter rivalry between the main coach Sean Walsh and Jack Parker. But Jack, the times I met him, was very, very nice to me, very cordial, a gentleman, and didn't see some of the ego you see out of a lot of coaches in the college ranks, especially back then. But I got to like Jack Parker. I thought he was just a good human being, good guy. Continuity is pretty important, but to stay at one university for all those years and have success, speaks highly of him as an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And a cornerstone, like you said, of college hockey in Boston University, pretty much synonymous with that team. Everything I've ever heard about the guy says that he was a hardcore guy, a hockey guy, but that every guy that ever played for him swears by him and loves him and would go to battle for him. So yeah,
I think he treated people well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very Boston heavy class with Zdeno, Jack Parker being the Boston University coach, and then Jumbo Joe Thornton, former Boston Bruins first-round pick as well, but better known as a San Jose Shark, was also inducted with Duncan Keith. Just to round out the list, a guy who broke my heart in 2013. I was there. I remember. I'll never forget.
Yeah, broke a lot of hearts. But Joe Thornton has been fun to watch. I mean, he was a guy who would never die. He just kept playing and playing and playing. And when he went to San Jose from Boston, I really thought that he was probably going to fade away. Opposite was true. But
a lot of those San Jose guys have been like iron horses. Brent Burns, him, Joe Pavelski.
Yeah. I mean, you go there, and he was one of the foundation guys, for San Jose, who really created a great culture. But his longevity in the league is really, really impressive, and absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
All-time hockey guy too. Just the look of him screams hockey guy. And then Duncan Keith, all-time NHL defenseman.
The beard's a little outlandish. Yeah. I mean, beard's outlandish, but he, it works for him, and he doesn't care. That's who he is. Chara was, I mean, if there's one guy in that whole group who should be, if you're going to rate them, most important or most likely to be in the Hall of Fame, or has to be in the Hall of Fame, Chara is number one on that list over all of them.
Really?
And what he did, that's my opinion. Absolutely. I mean, he
I would
played the
I would have
most,
said that would have
I
been my
believe.
personal bias.
No, no.
I will look that up. I know he was the second European captain to ever hoist the Stanley Cup.
Goes the cup, yeah. But I'm pretty sure Chara is the all-time leader in games played for a defenseman in the NHL. But he also has I have a little trivia. I was gonna throw it at you, but I kind of just gave it away. He has the record for the hardest shot ever at an NHL event. Do you know what that was? Do you know what the MPH was?
6?
Well, looking it up.
No, I didn't look it up.
Yeah, 108 miles an hour. Yeah, yeah.
He
But I
he
remember
yeah, he
Al
has 29
McInnes,
more
with St. Louis for all those years. You know,
29 more than Chris Chelios.
yeah, he had the bomb, right? Yeah, yeah. But maybe for Chara, maybe being 6'9" had a little bit something to do with it. But
Yeah.
but he was
Not to mention he's
really
a freak.
he
He's
was
just been running
unbelievable. What a
marathons since he retired and doing triathlons and stuff like that. So he's just
yeah.
one of those guys that he doesn't quit.
I believe Chara ran 2 marathons in 1 week.
And
I
ran him in
believe he
like
did,
three and a half hours.
yeah. And I think he climbed um, Kilimanjaro, I believe. The guy is a absolute freak of nature. We're not even talking about his height, but his athleticism. And I'm not sure how many kids he had, but I hope he had about 5 boys. They're probably going to grow up to be pretty good athletes. But
Zdeno
no, I mean
Chara would have
he
been
was
the
a really
king somewhere like 800 years ago. He would have been the king of a small tribe or village.
yep, 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 absolutely. Just a specimen and good human being, and really good to see him get in there in first ballot, which absolutely he deserved.
Yep. All those guys very, very deserving. So I wanted to move on to more current NHL news and talk a little bit about some of the hotter teams that we've mentioned on this podcast a few times. The Bruins, my personal favorite team, are the hottest team in hockey since we last spoke 2 episodes ago. The Bruins were 6-7 with
Yeah.
3 points separating them from the bottom of the conference with the Islanders, who we also mentioned. But the Bruins have won now 7 straight and are in a playoff spot as we speak today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I have a theory, and it's not really a theory; it's just an observation. But I think Marco Sturm, new coach, and he's done a pretty good job. They're not the most talented team in the league, but I think the system they play man to man or man on man, and which is a very simple system, but I believe their stats in terms of what they give up, grade A shots, is completely turned around. Like last year, they were one of the worst teams in the NHL in terms of giving up grade A's, and this year they're one of the best. That's why they have good goaltending to begin with. Jeremy Swayman is probably one of the 3 Olympic goalies. Mm, when you put your goalie in a position where he's got to make 20 or 22 grade A stops and just unbelievable chances against, they're going to give up goals. Any goalie is. It doesn't matter. Vasilevsky, same thing. But when you play good in front of them, and when Jim Montgomery came in a few years ago and they had the best record, like they set a record for the best record in the league, they did it because of his systems. And they had talent, of course. It was a really good mixture of solid defensive system, solid play in their own zone, and it starts there. And they had a mixture of that and talent. But what Marco Sturm has done so far, I mean, it's a small sample, but still he's got him going after kind of a rough start. He's got him going in a pretty good direction. It's because of, they play a little bit better than they had before in front of Swayman or Corpusalo. And I think it's really important that people understand, like when you give up so many grade A's, it's just a matter of time. The ship's going down. But when you turn that around, I think in a recent game against Chicago, they gave up like 55 scoring chances, and like the majority of them were not grade A's. They were from outside. So that makes a goalie's life a lot easier, and it gives you a better chance to win. I think Marco Sturm's system and his utilization of the players that he has plays very simple, and the whole thing is based on making sure they don't give up grade A's, and everyone's responsible. So it's still early. Yeah, or I don't even know if we're a third of the way through the season or a fourth of the way through, but
Not even a
but
third.
it's a small. Yeah, but it's a small sample. Good for him and good for the Bruins fans, because I think everyone thought they were going to be horrific again this
And
year. But
I wanted to talk about it a
good
little tongue
job.
in cheek because I don't know how long I'll be able to say we're in a playoff spot. But right now, this is what winning looks like if you're this team that doesn't have one of the best forward groups in the NHL, not a ton of recognizable names, but they lost Elias Lindholm, and it
Yeah,
kind of felt like that was going to be where the ship started to sink for the Bruins
yeah,
season, and they've done nothing but the opposite. If you're gonna win as a Boston Bruins team this year, that's what it's going to look like. All four forward lines chipping in. Nikita Zadorov being the new Zdeno Chara. He's going to have to be a bully and someone that those
yeah,
top lines are afraid to skate into the middle of the ice against.
yeah, yeah. And you get a guy like Geeky, who I remember him in Carolina a few years ago, a good, solid young player. All of a sudden, they're saying he could be the next 50-goal scorer. He's that good of a player, and a lot of people never heard of him. Although it's kind of a name that's hard to forget. But I remember as a young guy in Carolina, and he got third line, fourth line minutes, I think. But I think he's coming into his own. And some of these guys, it just takes time. We were talking about earlier about some of these young guns in the league. It just takes time. And I think Geeky is one of those guys who's stepped up in a big way, and he's going to provide some offense. But again, time will tell.
I was wondering, Coach, and that's a good way to transition to over the Islanders talk. They were 4-5-1 2 episodes ago when we spoke. They're now 8-6-2 and tied for a wild card spot. Talking about a kid that doesn't look like he needs time to develop, Matthew Schaefer. I don't know if you've seen this kid. He looks like a seasoned NHL veteran. He's having
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
fun playing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. He looks like if you want to take a 10-year-old kid and say, hey, play like this guy, his enthusiasm for the game, his speed, his instincts are really high, and his skill level is really high. So it's a nice combination. He's getting a lot of minutes. He's got a pretty good support cast around him. It gives him opportunity. The speed that he plays the game at is pretty impressive, and good for him. But I love it when guys, when they score a goal, they make good play, or their teammates make good plays. The enthusiasm you see, they don't act like, yeah, big deal. There's no big deal. And we've done it a million times. They do things with enthusiasm, and it just draws everyone to them. And I'm not talking about celebrating like you watch football players sometimes in the end zone just go way over the top. And it's not like that, but he just has pure enthusiasm. Kind of like skater with Carolina now, Nick Ehlers. When he scores a goal, it looks like his first NHL goal. He's pretty excited, but it's just the
Like we were talking
enthusiasm
about with
which
Ovechkin
creates
making every goal still look like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like it's a big deal to these guys. But this kid, Schaefer, does it the same way. When you can smile on the ice, and it's kind of hard to describe, but you can see the confidence and the enthusiasm, and it brings everyone in. It brings the crowd, it brings in, and that's a great way to win people over. But your teammates, your coaches, and people trust you, and you're given more minutes. I think a kid like that could probably manage the roller coaster a little bit better because he has his own belief system, and that's really what it takes. Because you're gonna have games where you're gonna go 6 straight without a goal or a point, and you've got to manage that. And but that all starts with your own belief system. But I think a guy like that, and Patrick was going to just let him go, right? And why not? Well, they have nothing to lose, and they didn't get off to the greatest start. I think 0-3, and then they evened up. They got to 500, and but now they're starting to play really well. And of course, they got a guy named Sorokin in net, pretty good goalie, right? So they have the opportunity to be in every game, but they have difference makers like Schaefer and others around him that are going to help. So they're going to be fun to watch. And again, it's early, but at least it's an indication that there's potential.
And young blood like that, like, just breathes life into a team, like you were talking about. The Islanders who play such a sound defensive style hockey, systems style hockey, like the Bruins that we talked about a minute ago. If he's gonna be playing important minutes against top forward lines like that, then it just makes everyone on the ice for your team so, so, so much better. Another young guy I wanted to shout out before we move on was Dan Vladar, who was a free agent, signed with the Flyers on July 1st. I was kind of nervous to bring this up before to you, Coach, because I don't know. We haven't talked about high danger save percentage. It's a little bit of an analytical category. But among goalies to play at least 8 games this year, Vladar leads the NHL in high danger save percentage. He is 43 of 48 on shots faced from high danger chances. He also ranks fourth in the NHL in save percentage and goals against average. Just a guy he was a part of the Bruins goalie logjam a couple of years ago, and it's just
Yeah,
benefited the Flyers.
right, right. I watched him last night, and I was
Tough
shocked
loss,
because I remember him with Boston, and then didn't he go out of the West Coast a little bit? Who did he play
I
for after
believe.
Boston? But he's never really looked, like a true NHL. Um, nothing even close. And I watched him last night, and he looked really good. His game has tightened up quite a bit. He just looked like he has more confidence than ever, but he looked like a absolute stud, and that's why his stats are where they are. But again, longevity is going to be the key for him. But boy, at some point, all of these goalies, not all of them, but the ones that actually maybe it takes a little extra time for them, but it takes a team to believe in them. And I think he may be a great example of that because he looks like an absolute strong goalie. But again, longevity is, will indicate how far he goes. I mean, if he can just keep playing like that, try to be as consistent as he can. But, he didn't get caught outside the post much in this last night's game. It was a 2-1 overtime game, correct? Last night.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
Edmonton.
yeah, yeah, and Edmonton won in overtime, but he played fantastic. But he looked good doing it. He looked under control, and that's a great name to pick out of a hat because he might be a big surprise as the season goes on. And good for Philly because what's their record, like 9-4? I think they have 9
Yeah,
wins, correct?
they're 8-5-3. They are the
Eight.
second of two wild card spots in the East right now.
Yeah, so I mean that's way better than people expected at this stage of the season. So, but it all starts in net. And if you get a guy who can hold you in games, that's going to make obviously a huge difference. But good for them. I've always, I want the Flyers to do well. They've always had trouble with goalies, always. For as long as I can remember, ever since the passing of Pelle Lindbergh, it's been a rough go for them. They had Hextall and Gar Snow. But I think since then they've had some guys that just didn't really pan out. But hopefully this guy can be the guy for the Flyers.
It's been a turnstile in net over there in Philly. They had Bobrovsky at one point, which is hilarious to think about now.
You imagine?
Who was I just gonna mention in that same group with them? Blanking on it, can't remember it. But yeah, Dan Vladar was out west
Well,
in Calgary, coach. That's the Western team for about 3 or 4 years after the Bruins.
yeah, yep, yep. But it's timing. I mean, you get with the right team at the right time, the right coaches who are going to kind of hang with you a little bit. Uh, the player has to take responsibility, obviously. Um, when a kid has confidence and he believes and he understands that people around him have belief in him, you can go a long way. All of these guys they're NHL goalies, so they're among the best in the world. But there's another level that they have to hit, and part of that, the proof in the pudding is longevity and how long you do it. Like Anthony Stolarz, great example. I think he's a career backup, and he played well. He played on Florida's Cup-winning team as a backup, right? Never been an NHL starter, and he finished the year, I think, pretty strong. Had injury issues here and there, but this year they had him slated as one of the stud goalies in the NHL. Hasn't worked out, and I think it's because he's not used to he lost his goalie partner Joe Wall at the beginning of the season, so he kind of had to take the brunt of the minutes, and he hasn't done well. He's had the worst year of his career in Toronto, and I think Toronto's 500 at the moment. But
Think
Joe
Stolarz
Wall
got
is
hurt
coming
too.
back, so hopefully, yeah, yeah. Well, they're saying upper body injury, but
Him and Matthews.
that could be his. He got his feelings hurt. Yeah, but who knows? But I don't think Stolarz is. I think he'd be part of a really good tandem. But not the guy who can play 65 games, 60
That's
games. I think the
the
most he's ever played in his career, mid-30s, something like that. Yeah. So I don't know if he's the guy. I mean, it takes a special mentality to get in there and play 50, 60, 65 games and play consistently. And I don't think still Lars is that guy. But as a tandem, part of a tandem, I think he'd be great and allow him to breathe a little bit. But if they get Joe Wall back playing to the way he played before he left the team, that could give everyone a little confidence and give Anthony Stolarz a bit of a breather and have a really good 1-2 punch and goal.
For sure, for sure. They took the eventual Cup champs to 7 last year with Stolarz. People forget that. So if they have Wall and him, I mean that's a scary team again. The reason I wanted to bring up Vladar
Yeah.
also is because that's if you look up in February, March, April, and the Flyers are still hanging around in a wild card spot, I think he'll be a big, big reason why. So I just wanted that on the record. You got anything else, Coach, or you got
No, I
trivia?
mean if no, no, my trivia is going to be the Chara Hardy shot,
Okay, okay.
but I kind of we started talking about the Hall of Fame class, and his name came up, and then it blew my thing right out of the water. But that's the way it goes. But no, I mean, you look around the league, and it's fun to see these you know, younger teams with the Celebrinis and players of that age bracket, all of a sudden figuring it out. And there's no more doormats on the West Coast, whether it's San Jose, especially Anaheim. Joel Quenneville and a veteran coach has implemented a good system, and these young guys have bought into it, and they're very difficult to beat. And they've got very good young goaltending in Anaheim as well with Lucas Dostal. And he's going to be a stud, and he's still young. So they're going to be hard to beat. So the West Coast swings where the weather's nice, not going to be a cakewalk anymore for anyone. And these teams are for real. So it's going to be interesting. And it used to be that way. The guys would go out there and 10 toes up on the balcony and get some sun and not worry about too much. But they got to worry about it now because they gotta go play hard every night. It's going to be tough.
That was the thing when Vegas came into the league that people said about why they were so good at home is that teams would come into Vegas and they'd get the Vegas flu and not be ready for the game. Things like that. People used to
Yeah,
take Anaheim as a beach trip.
yeah, 100%. The Vegas thing is really true now. I believe a lot of teams have kind of harsher restrictions on, I don't know about curfews or anything like that, but I think maybe the guys have taken it upon themselves to internally say, you got to be in your room by a certain hour because it'll get you. Vegas is Vegas, Sin City. If you want to focus on your job, you better stay away from that stuff. But I think it's interesting when you talk about Vegas. The hockey team in Vegas when they first went in was an experiment. It was a big experiment for Major League Sports. No one dared to go into Vegas because I think everyone thought it was more of a tourist, the population around it, mostly tourists, right? They're worried about getting a fan base. So no baseball teams there, no football teams, no basketball teams, no hockey teams. Hockey went in and was hugely successful. And I think now the other major league, obviously football is there now. But I think it's just a matter of time. Isn't Oakland heading to Vegas?
Yeah, that's more
The
than
Oakland
likely what's
A's.
going to happen. I was going to say
So
they had
Vegas was
the
an
Las
experiment.
Vegas Aces WNBA team though, Coach. There before.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But it's all about money. It's all about support, corporate support. That's the biggest thing. Ticket sales obviously are important, corporate sales, but it's all about can they afford it, and is the revenue going to come in? And I think people maybe 15 years ago or 20 years ago said no way Vegas was staying away. There's no fan base there. Well, hockey proved it wrong, and the hockey team of Las Vegas obviously went very, very far in its first year, which is kind of a kiss of death. But they've done really well, and they're very competitive, but it's opened the doors for the other major league sports.
I think two things the NHL did not see coming with Vegas in particular is one, that there would be such a rabid hockey fan base in the desert, and two, especially after what happened with Arizona, and two,
Yeah.
that it would become another like show on the strip there in Vegas. Like my grandparents went one time the year that the
Yeah.
Golden Knights came out, and they said it was the hardest ticket to get on the entire strip because of the pageantry and what they do before the game and how much of an
Yeah.
experience they make it. They make it worth more than a regular NHL ticket price, which they can justify charging in Vegas.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I think the game ops people in Vegas are, and the front office, from the business standpoint, they do everything first class. And their standards are way higher than most other teams in terms of in-game entertainment and just how they put on the show. You look at their rings, that when they won, when they won the cup, right? A picture of their
Yeah.
rings. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, you can hold it in your hand. I mean, it's just a massive piece of top comes off, and it's the inside of their arena. Like it's the most
I'll put a picture of
imaginative
it in the podcast for people to
championship
see.
ring I've ever seen. Well, one of the coaches, the video coach for Vegas, is a very old friend of mine, and he told me when he first got the job that he said, if we ever win it, I'm gonna send you a picture of the ring. Well, the night they got their rings, he sent me a picture with it on his hands, and I'll show
But
it
you
to
got
you.
to send me the
I'll send
picture,
it to you as
Coach.
well. It's just
Yeah.
massive. Yeah, I'll send it. Trust me, I'll send it. But
All right. You got
but
anything else?
anyway,
I was
their
looking down to
standards.
look up trivia in the background, by the way, so I do have a trivia question for you. You might have heard this one before, though.
Let's see. Let's hear it. Let's go.
All right, so there are 4 colleges that have produced both a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a U.S. president. Can you name them? And again, you can take your time with this. You don't have to rush through it. We can cut out the dead
4
air.
colleges that are produced Super Bowl.
Super Bowl winning quarterback and a U.S. president.
Oh my God, I can't even. No way. What are they? Let's hear it.
You don't want to take any guesses? I'll give you a hint. There's
Super Bowl
the
quarterback.
the guy that is the
Hold
GOAT, in
on.
my opinion. The guy that wore this jersey for a long time, where he went to school.
No, I'm just drawing blanks. Nothing but blanks.
It's all good. So the
What
4
do you got?
colleges are Michigan, Navy, Stanford, and then the unexpected one that always gets even college football fans is Miami of Ohio.
Really? That one I wouldn't have guessed. Michigan, I should have been an obvious one. Stanford as well.
Michigan is
Miami of Ohio.
Tom Brady
Wow.
and Ford.
That's
Navy is Roger Staubach and Carter.
Yep.
Stanford is Elway or Plunkett and Hoover. And then Miami of Ohio is Roethlisberger
yeah.
and Harrison.
See, I am not a football guy. My wife, however, she would probably have gotten that, or at
You
least
should
a
ask
couple
her
of
that.
them. I guarantee you, she's a big NFL. Yeah. All right. Maybe I can win something from her. If I stump her on that one.
Quiz her when you get home.
Good trivia. I like it. I'm going to come up with something special next week, so we'll see if you can see if I can stump you. You stump me
All right,
every
Coach,
time, but I don't mind.
You'll put me on the spot.
I kind of enjoy it. Yep. Promise.
All righty, Coach. You have a good one.
All right, buddy. You have a good one. All the best to the fam.
Thank you.